So welcome to the show, Jade.
Hello, thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Now, I'm really excited because we've spoken to all sorts of female entrepreneurs on the show, and you're our very first actorpreneur. And it's a term I'd never heard of before. And when you mentioned it, I was like, we have to get Jade on the show. And you've even written a book all about it. But before we go into what is an actorpreneur and how can someone become one, I'd love to know, how did you get to that stage? What made you become an actor? And then what gave you the insight or the encouragement or motivation to turn that into being an actorpreneur?
Well, I was one of these people when I was 15, 16 years old. I felt like I wasn't good at anything in school. I think I had learning disabilities that weren't properly picked up. And one day we got given a script for Blood Brothers, which is a musical, and I took it home, and it was the first time I ever did homework in my life. And I came back the next day and I'd learned the entire thing. And then I realized no one else had. So then I was like, okay, well, maybe I like this more than other people. I then went to college. I did a few drama courses, and my dad was living in London at the time. This was when I was living out in Norfolk, in Norwich. And I moved to London at the age of 17. I was like, right, I'm going to become an actor, and I have no idea what I'm going to do, but I'm going to just go with the flow and see. And so I moved down to London and I got some headshots done and started applying to auditions online, and I got a few little short films and music videos, and I kind of felt like I'd made it straight away just because I was acting. And then the reality of it hit, of the difference between doing these fun little unpaid jobs to actually getting an agent and becoming, like, essentially a working actor. And I then heard about this thing called drama school, and I really wanted to go. And drama schools, the big prestigious ones in London, like RADA, LAMDA, all that, you do the 3-year courses at the end, so you get this massive showcase in front of casting directors, and it can really catapult you into the industry. Now, I wanted to do that, but I got rejected. Over 4 years, I got rejected about 30 times. I'd get shortlisted and waiting listed just because the competition was so high. And yeah, it kind of got under my skin a bit because I was that young, and I spent, I self funded my audition process, which was sometimes like, £700-800 a year for a 17-year-old working nights. To pay that off, that was quite a lot. So then I kind of thought, well, you know what, I'm going to make this happen. I have to. And I started then training in stage combat because I felt like I wanted to have a different skill. I thought it seems to be difficult to get an agent. It's difficult to get a first job, a proper big job, and it's difficult to get into drama school. So I thought, well, let me change my skill set and have something that not everyone else has. So I started doing stage combat, which is basically pretend fighting. And I did that with a group of people, and we then, one of them had some cameras, so we started shooting our own showreel scenes. And so from there we kind of developed into showreel scenes to making short films. And then I realized that it was possible to just create your own work, and so that's something I started doing. That was 10 years ago, and from there I've developed, and I found that my way in the industry has been creating my own work. Not only was I able to create roles that I felt suited me, but I could always be working, and working's not always about earning money, because I've always liked the idea. I've also done a lot of business courses, which I feel like has really helped my acting career as well. And I know a lot of actors don't like to see themselves as a product or a business, but essentially that's what we are. We're kind of selling ourselves. And I felt like once I understood that and I could separate the personal side and manage myself, that I started doing a lot better. I started getting picked up by good agents. I started working loads, and people like that I was busy. I always had something happening, and I feel like work equals work. So yeah, that was kind of my journey. And then I in the last year or so, I found that a lot of people ask me for advice and how I got into it, whether it's people that I'm working with or complete strangers on social media. So I decided to put it all in a book.
What a fantastic journey. And there are so many lessons already in what you've shared there. And it's so clear that you were very fortunate at that young age to find your passion. And I think once you have passion and vision, you have that that resilience and that determination and that stubbornness to succeed that you definitely need as a business owner and entrepreneur. You don't get far without that, because it's nobody's journey is ever perfect or easy, and there are always new lessons to be learned, new challenges that you didn't see coming, and you have to find a way around those. And I love just how you've done that by going back to what it is that you felt suited you. I mean, we hear very often in the show that the turning point for most women in business, and I would say any business owner, is that moment where they really discover who exactly they are and what value and meaning they want to be creating in the world, and how they want to be using their talents in a way to make a difference or inform or entertain or whatever that may be. So I love that that was your experience as well, and also your growth mindset, because that going through all of those challenges, that's the point where you realized, well, hang on a minute, I need to learn and develop and grow here to help me get to that next stage. So there was so many amazing things in that story, and I love how you supplemented your acting training and understanding with that business understanding too. And I see it with my kids; um, they've always done all the learning and development with me as I've been building my businesses, because I've built it around them. So I'm always doing training while cooking or listening to CDs in the car. And they have this most amazing entrepreneurial mindset, which I just think is just the biggest life asset possible, having the ability to overcome challenges and discover your passion and stay focused on delivering that. So it's just really huge hats off. I think you've done you're more than an actorpreneur, you're really like the model entrepreneur almost.
It's definitely been a long journey, but yeah, lots of it didn't feel easy. I definitely not. I'm very adamant that I should never be seen as one of those people that just got there. It's been a very long 15-year journey of difficulties, but yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's an important lesson as well, because I see lots of people, and that's kind of part of the role of this show, is to show people that there are no overnight successes. You know, nobody decided, oh, I'm going to do this, and it suddenly all fell into place. So if things feel hard, then that's just the next lesson you have to learn, and you just have to keep learning those lessons until you find you're in that place. And then when you look back, like you were telling your story and it sounded perfectly logical, whereas it doesn't feel like that at the time. You're like, oh my gosh, where am I going next? But you know, it all comes together. And when you look back, you see that you learned the perfect lessons at the perfect time that helped you to get that success that's perfectly yours as well along the way. So do you have any tips for people out there who perhaps are going through a feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm just hitting my head on the brick wall here. How can I get through this next challenge? What was it that helped you meet those challenges and keep going?
Setting goals really helps me. That was something again through learning about entrepreneurship. That was something that really helped, because it's not about seeing progress every day. It's over time what happens. So even when I was first lessons, and it wasn't until a year later when I looked at myself, and then I was then working with beginners, you see how things progress and change. But I'd really say, yeah, look at the bigger picture, set goals, break those goals down into how you can get there, and just keep going. It is going to be difficult, but also don't be harsh on yourself. Congratulate yourself when you do hit the goals, even if for example, if you were writing a book or you're writing something, even 500 words a day is better than no words a day. And then once you do that, buy yourself a bottle of wine, treat yourself to something, reward yourself for when you do hit those marks, because then it's going to make you want to do it more.
Yeah, that's so important in there, because it's all sort of progression over perfection is kind of the way to go. But to have that big goal to work towards, but to break that down into smaller milestones, because I think I see people with this huge goal and every day they don't achieve it, they feel like a failure. And that
Yeah.
is not motivating at all. But if you can have your big goal, your big vision, but have that broken down into the small steps, like you say, just even, oh, I'm just going to do 500 words today, and recognize those successes, you'll get there much, much quicker, because you're in a much more positive frame of mind. You feel that you're making progress. And yeah, it's amazing. I had a client recently and she was like, wow, I don't feel my sales calls are working. And I was like, okay, well, let's unpack this a little bit. And then when we worked into it, she was getting, her conversion rate was more than 50% of her calls. I was like, that is unbelievable. She's like, oh, is it? So, she was being super successful, but hadn't really recognized that. But as soon as she did, then everything changed, and she started to really enjoy the sales process more. She started to get even better results just by recognizing her achievements, really. And I think sometimes we can miss those as well, or we'll have an achievement and we're so focused on the next one that we miss it. We don't really take that moment in the spotlight, to kind of enjoy that success that we've created and recognize that.
No, definitely, definitely. I've even had like a few little things come up today, and I'm like, I'm close to just pushing them aside. I'm like, no, I've got to celebrate these. These are exciting. So yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah, exactly. And it's always nice to have, I always encourage people to have like a success circle, or just someone who gets what you're trying to achieve, so that when you have these moments, you've got someone to turn to and say, oh my gosh, I did it. Or those moments where it isn't working, you've got someone to turn around and say like, oh, it's not happening. And you've got someone to support you through that as well, and who you'll do the same for as well. Do you feel you have any network like that? Is that your case?
Yes, I have an accountability partner, and I have to say, I don't know if I'd have got things done without her. It was really nice. Every Friday, we would have a phone call at 10 a.m. in the morning, and we will talk about the goals that we set for that week, what our problems were. And we were both doing quite different businesses. I was obviously doing the voiceovers and the acting, and she was doing a podcast. And so each week we kind of help each other, give each other tips. But it was just nice to have someone that kind of was on a journey with you, so you could encourage each other, but also wasn't focused on, all the other things in your life. Because sometimes, if you're talking to a partner or a friend, they kind of, it's hard when you are working on your own and you're freelance, because no one really understands what you're going through. So yeah, I'd say that will help um not feel so alone, because you don't really want to talk to your friends or your partners about work things all the time, and you'll need a certain kind of conversation and encouragement that they probably won't be able to give you. So I definitely encourage that.
Yeah, I think friends and family always try to say the right thing, and they're very encouraging and they want to support you, but they don't always say, yeah, what you need them to say. They're like, oh, but it's wonderful. And you're like, yeah, thanks, but it's not what I thought. So
Yeah.
yeah, you definitely need someone, as you say, who really gets where you're coming from. And you mentioned something there that you touched on earlier as well. And I see this as another problem or challenge that people come up with. So I'd love to pick your brains on this as well. And that is separating Jade, the actorpreneur, from Jade, the person. And when you are in business for yourself, sometimes it can be really hard to separate you in your business context and you, a person. So, and very often, and I can't remember who said it, but they say, there's no such thing as business problems. Really, they're just personal problems that show up in your business. And sometimes if you don't feel you're worthy, or you're not ready yet, or you're not quite enough for one reason or another, which is like the number one fear and mindset challenge we all have, then if you are fusing yourself with your business too closely, then it's really hard to separate those two and move forward if you're always holding yourself back. And you mentioned that's something that you learned along the way. Do you have any tips, or do you remember how that moment, that separation came about?
Yes, I had heard people talk about be the person you want to be tomorrow today. So I started thinking, or trying to get inside my head of like, right, okay, so I am really successful. I've got my own production company. I'm an international working actress. And I started trying to think of how I would be living my life, and how I would be thinking if, you know, once I got to the place where I wanted to be. And once I did, I was like, well, you know, once I've got to that place, I want to take a bit more time to just relax, or, you know, treat myself to dinner with friends. And, you know, I think you often find the people who are at the top, they work smart, not hard. And that's what I try to do now. I definitely, you know, I'll wake up and be like, oh, I've got all these things to do, but I will allow myself a couple of hours to do whatever I need to do to just treat myself, you know, whether it's, yeah, ordering a massage to your house, or anything you want to do, whatever makes you happy. Go swimming, take yourself out for a meal. Just, you know, it doesn't have to always be a horrible fluster. You can be enjoying life. And, you know, I always think we only have today. I don't think tomorrow exists really. So you need to be living the kind of life you want to be living tomorrow today. Obviously it's more difficult if you're not financially in that place, but you don't always have to be spending loads of money to just find the simple pleasures. Even if it's just going for a walk in the park, listening to some music that makes you happy, just take that time for yourself, because it will reflect in your business. You'll be kinder to people, you'll be more relaxed. Yeah, I think that really, really helps.
Amazing advice. And that's all about being kindful. You know, we talk about being mindfulness, but we also need to be kindful towards ourselves, and to keep that balance. And so often you hear people saying, oh yeah, I'll take time out when, you know, but I love that you've kind of, you haven't put the future off, you've brought it right into today, and you're already making that lifestyle happen. I think that's
Yeah,
a key lesson.
it's really helped me, but it took a really long time to get there. And yeah, I don't know if I could have done it any quicker than what I did. But after I heard that, I started kind of applying it to my life, and I started, yeah, just relaxing and enjoying life a bit more. But I think it's not an easy thing just to do. I know my boyfriend at the moment, he's an architect, and he's working really, really long hours, and he's stressed, and I'm trying to get him to do the same mindset, but it can be different for different people. But I think it's definitely important to try and ground yourself in that way as well.
Yeah, and there's a guy called Dr. Nick Hall, and he's always saying, you know, stress isn't a bad thing. It can be quite good for us. We very often do our best work under stress. It forms our character. It helps us meet deadlines. But the problem comes in when there's not enough counter stress. And that's when we have the health issues, and we stop being so productive. So it's, the stress is okay as long as you make sure it's kept in balance with the time off activities, and something, just those, the allowing yourself the freedom to do what fills you with joy, and to know that those moments are just as valuable as the working moments. Because if you're not feeling fulfilled, then you won't be as productive or as creative and visionary as you would be otherwise. So yeah, but it's true that it doesn't happen overnight, and it takes some courage as well.
Yeah, it's like I said, it has been a really long process, and I'm not really sure at what point the penny dropped, and it just kind of happened over time. But even with the whole lockdown situation we're in now, I just find myself, you know, trying to make, I guess it's trying to see the positive in things, and turn it to your advantage. And yeah, that's the mindset thing, and there's lots of different ways you can change your mindset.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. There's that, is it Jim Rohn that says, you know, if you don't like your situation, change it. You're not a tree.
Yeah, exactly. I always like The Secret as well. I found that was quite helpful for me.
Yeah,
um yeah, I like it that it puts you in control of your life, rather than always blaming things on the outside. I think, you know, you control the things you can, and you can walk away from the things that you can't control, or you feel like you can't control.
yeah, absolutely. I think sometimes we don't realize quite how much control we have over our future, because it really depends on the decisions and actions we take today. Whereas often we kind of say we leave it too much to chance, and we don't take that responsibility. So I'd love to come to your book, how you've touched on a little bit about how you've created your own work, your own business. So what made you decide to put that into a book, and who should read it?
It came from last year. There was an actress who, she's probably worked a bit more than me, but she had a book coming out, and I all of a sudden got really excited about this book. I hadn't really been interested in acting books in quite a while, but I thought, oh, I really want to hear about this, and I really expected that book to be about her experiences going to auditions and how she approached her work and working on film sets. And then when I bought it, it just wasn't what I thought it would be. It was a bit more abstract. And I thought, oh, actually, there's obviously like a little gap that I'm looking for. So then I started looking, and I was like, no, I want to read a book on the British film industry that incorporates using social media, intimate scenes. And there've been many occasions throughout my acting career where I'd be like, okay, so I'm going to do some kind of intimate scene, or I'm going to a premiere, and I'd Google how to do these things, and there's no information out there. There's all the basics of how to get an agent, how to go to audition, but once you're working, there was a few more things that I wanted to know, and I wanted reassurance on. So then I realized that there was kind of a gap in the market, and I thought that if I wanted to read this, then maybe someone out there would, or if not, even just hearing about my experiences and the way that I do things, even if it's not exactly everything they agree with and they have a way that suits them more, at least it's just gives them some perspective on things. And I did want to touch on, even Me Too issues and things like that, because I still feel like there's a lot more to be spoken about. So I just put it all into a book and just wanted it to be a modern reference to the industry, what it is now and how I see it, and also how to stay motivated and a little bit more in control of your career as an actor. So yeah, that's why I started writing it in January, and then lockdown came around, and it just gave me the time to push through and finish it.
That's wonderful. And everything you've already shared about your journey and your experiences you've already contributed so much value to the audience today. Then I'm sure that book is just really completely high value from cover to cover. And I love that you found a gap in the market and wanted to fill that with your own experiences and perspectives. So yeah, I'll link everyone up to that. I'll put the details below so they can go and check that out.
Thank you. No, it was really nice, because I've kind of felt like, if I looked back at my 17-year-old self, I would have loved something like this to be there. I think it would have guided you in the right way. And I know certainly for actors anyway, there are a lot of it can be a minefield, even whether it's people that create showreel scenes. I sometimes feel they can exploit actors and things like that. So it's kind of a way of just guiding people and giving them a heads up, especially if they're new to the industry. But even if they've been around for a long time, it's just another point of view that they might find useful.
Yeah. So as an actor, you're someone who is very familiar with words. So did writing come naturally? Was it a natural extension of acting?
Yeah, it's funny you say that, actually, because I when I started producing and writing, doing all these showreel scenes 10 years ago, I just took on the role as the writer. So someone would be like, here's my story that they've written out, and I would research how to turn it into a script. So I've actually been writing scripts for the last 10 years as well. So I have my own production company and have written several films that I produced. So yeah, I've writing a book for me was so much easier than doing anything in film. It's just even the production, because it's kind of pretty much one person in control of everything. You don't have to wait, whereas film, there's so many external people coming in, there's funding to raise and everything like that. So it was a lot easier. So yeah, definitely my writing has helped, and I hope that this might help me go in and push the writing further as well.
Oh, do come back and tell us all about that when you do.
I will. Thank you.
So, I mean, I feel you've really shared so much value in everything you've done, and we've only just scratch the surface of that. But I'd love to wrap up with asking you if there's any standout lessons that you feel, if everyone starting a business just knew these one or two things, it would help them enormously going forward. Um, is there any standout things like that that you would like to share?
Oh, definitely. First of all, nothing worth having ever came easy. 100% believe that, because if it was easy, everyone would be doing it. um, do the hardest thing in your list of goals, things that you have to do in the day. Do the hardest thing first, because it will set off endorphins and you'll want to do more, and you'll move along a lot quicker. And I don't think you have to, I think there's a saying like start now, get perfect later.
Mhm.
And I believe that you just need to, I when I started writing this book, I'd never written a book, and I never wrote anything like this, and I was like, well, I just need to get it out there, and then I'll figure it out. The rest I will just figure it out. So yeah, it's all about getting your head down, just do it, and then you sort out the mess later. But the hardest thing with anything, I think, is getting to the end. Even if you're creating a website, just get something out and get it moving, and then perfect it along the way.
I love that advice. And so often I think we build things out so much in our mind that they become so overwhelming we can't take that first step. But if we just take that first step, then things start to become clearer bit by bit. And then you realize, oh, right, okay, now I need this bit of information or that. And I kind of feel you could go away and study entrepreneurship for 20 years and then get started and then realize, oh, I've studied all the wrong things because it doesn't, everybody's journey is so different. I mean, there are obviously, when you listen to back to these shows, there are definite commonalities, but that's more to do with the person and the mindset that you need to succeed than any technical aspect. In that respect, you just have to, yeah, as you say, just do it, just get out there and get going.
Definitely, and think about it in the long term rather than in the next year, in the next 2 year. Start thinking in the next 20 years or the next 30 years, how things are going to look. uh, it's not all a quick fix. You've got to be in it for the long run. Just be open-minded and try new things.
Yeah, and what I've learned is where you start is never where you end up. So it almost doesn't matter where you start, as long as you start somewhere, then you've got a place to evolve from, to learn from, to grow into, and yeah, create that huge, big, scary, big, hairy, audacious goal, and just grow into that.
Yeah, definitely.
Jade, thank you so much. And for those people who are out in their car, they're queuing up waiting for their audition, how can they find you?
So I am all over social media under Jade Asha, ASHA. I also have a voiceover website, jadeashavoiceovers.com, or you can go and find out about the book on actorpreneurbook.com.
Perfect, thank you. And I'll put all of those links down as underneath in the show notes as well. Thank you so much again for all of your value. I've really enjoyed learning more about becoming an actorpreneur, and I think it's yeah, I mean, so many lessons for anyone who wants to create any kind of project, even if it isn't a business as such. I think you've just really hit the nail on the head on so many things. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.